Good morning, everybody. Our company likes to say that we are stopping the fraudsters from stealing money out of the cards that are sitting in your pocket. It's really a big problem today, and really the source of the problem is because people need to get authenticated before they start transacting. So, how long ago did actually money was invented? Does anybody know? How about 7,000 years? And why was money invented? It solved a big problem. You no longer had to trade a pig for a cow, right? It solved a bartering problem. It actually was a reusable device to exchange things, right? You could give money to one person, and then the person would give money to somebody else. So it was a reusable commodity. As well, the commodity was stable, right? So the value stayed the same. It was constant. Now, the problem when they invented money was something else came along with it right away. Stealing, right? Money was stolen right off the bat. So now there was a need to create security around money as well. And security was such a big problem, and stealing was such a big problem, that even though money was established 7,000 years ago, what's one of the tenements in the Bible? Thou shalt not steal, right? So they had to reinforce that concept. So money was around for a very, very long time. And in the middle of last century, there was a huge invention. It was called a plastic card. Credit cards and debit cards came into being. And it was revolutionary and became absolutely a huge ecosystem. Arguably today, money that gets traded on a plastic card or an account that's linked to a plastic card is one of the largest interoperable systems on the planet. To give you an idea of how big it is, the economy is worth about $75 trillion is the gross domestic product, and 30% of that is actually traded through the use of a plastic card or an account associated with it, whether it's through a mobile device or something else. So the system is absolutely huge, and it's growing as the world starts to develop, to the extent that it's going to be about double that amount by the year 2027. So cards are taking over the world. Unfortunately, though, fraud is also becoming a very big problem. And one of the benefits associated with cards was that it was ubiquitous, right? So I got on a plane from the United States a couple of days ago, brought my cards over with me, and I can go to a restaurant here, I can make a charge, and my account gets debited right away, and the currency gets converted immediately. And I expect that to work, and I expect it to be secure. But security is waning in the light of increasing amounts of fraud, in breaches that we learn about every single day. Consumer fears are elevating, and the system's no longer safe. So if the system isn't safe, we have to find a way to restore trust within the system. So we at Tender Armor have new solutions that are available in the market that work to actually authenticate the consumer. No more passwords. And today, even biometrics, which is the new hot thing right now, they're not safe. Why aren't they safe? Because they are static data. They are not dynamic. They can be copied. And they actually work to only authenticate a device, not the actual person that's allowed to make the device. So anybody who transacts with an Apple phone, put your fingerprint on the phone to confirm a transaction. Guess what? I can take a little jelly bean or a gummy bear, warm up my fingers, and lift the fingerprint right off of that phone and start using your phone. So we're working to make that more safe today. And once we make the system safe, what's going to happen to the banking world? Well, banks are going to start to morph. And what we're developing is something called a personal data vault. We believe that banks are going to start to house more than just financial data. If you begin to trust your bank, now you can put all kinds of data and information that you want to control, own, and maintain into a personal data vault. And you can use the banking system, the same payment system, to move that data to whoever you want to be able to access the data over that same system. And it allows an ability to open up permissions as you as a consumer can decide who do I want to give the data to, under what circumstances, and in what conditions, and for how long. So it opens up the world of possibilities about consumers owning their data and deputizing consumers around their own security of that data, which is a paradigm shift from where we are today. Now, once data becomes available in the system, is it valid? Is it real? Is it true? So there's lots of different systems out there today that use data and artificial intelligence. You go to Yelp, you get a review on a restaurant. Do you trust that review? Do you trust the review that TripAdvisor has? So how do you make the data have value? And that comes from building credibility with the data. So there's something called a credibility score, which we believe that consumers and enterprises will start contributing to. The idea would be, just like a credit score, you'd want your credibility score to increase. Right? The higher your credibility score, the higher the value of your data, and then you can drive consumers to your enterprise if they trust the information you are providing to them. And that comes through the validity of the data. And with machine learning and artificial intelligence, the more inputs around the data and using blockchain technologies, you can gather data from more disparate places. And then you can have algorithms that can actually validate the data for its credibility. So now all of a sudden, take your reviews on Yelp and your reviews on Facebook and your reviews on TripAdvisor and commingle them together to create an actual algorithm that says, this enterprise is really telling the truth about their product set. Now, how valuable would that be to an enterprise? That would actually drive consumers to shop more at a particular enterprise or organization more than they would if they didn't trust the data. Same thing with people, right? I can come up here and I can tell you I have an Ivy League degree from a school, right? Does anybody really know if I do or if I don't? You don't. But my credibility and my integrity increases with the more data inputs I have and the more valid the data becomes. So by creating this collaboration between banks and what they do today, housing of data and their highly regulated institutions, banks can actually morph and use the existing infrastructures that they have to support collecting of data, housing of data, storing of the data, and the security around the data, and deputize consumers to do what they want with that data, which now changes the market and changes the opportunities with the market that can be exploited. And again, puts the consumer in control. But all of that requires a level of safety and security. And it also correlates back to privacy, right? So who owns the data? And we heard talks yesterday about entities owning the data. And I think Stephen Bross talked about the fact that do they have the right to own the data, or does the consumer have the right to own the data? So having the security and deputizing the consumer opens up new possibilities for what can be done with the data and who has permission to use it, and eliminates some of this big brother concept that we all are so afraid of. Thank you.